Hello there, this is Talking Europe on France 24. I'm Catherine Nicholson. Now today I'm very pleased to be speaking to one of the executive vice presidents of the European Commission, a man charged with overseeing two big dossiers: trade and, I quote, an economy that works for people. That's the official title. Now this at a point in time where economies around the world are struggling through the day-to-day challenges of the latest wave of COVID-19 infections and looking ahead to what is still an uncertain future. Valdis Dombrovskis, thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
Well, Commissioner Dombrovskis, I just want to start with a broad look at the EU economies. A senior official at the International Monetary Fund said a couple of days ago that there's going to be a need for an extra push of financial support this year for EU economies and next year to overcome the long-term impacts of COVID-19. Do you agree that more is needed?
Indeed, and that's something we are emphasizing also from European Commission side, that fiscal stimulus to the economy should continue for as long as it's needed. That's why we already have indicated, for example, that we will continue to maintain the flexibility within EU fiscal rules this year and next to not to prematurely withdraw fiscal support. And we are just now rolling out our major financial stimulus package of 1.82 trillion euros.
And now, in terms of the EU's €750 billion recovery package agreed summer last year by the heads of state and government, Christine Lagarde, head of the European Central Bank, warned a couple of weeks ago about not having too much procrastination in getting this money out to the member states. Now, just as a contrast, the United States has already launched its stimulus package of almost $2 trillion. But no money is flowing yet from the EU's fund. What's the difference for Europe?
Well, first of all, it's worth noting that the financial package which I mentioned, 1.82 trillion euros, comes on top of immediate crisis response measures which were taken and rolled out already during the last year. So what will come now, the 1.82 trillion euros, comes on top of immediate crisis response measures, which were also measuring many hundreds of billions of euros. In terms of rolling out this money, we are now indeed in a crunch time, but the idea with our European Economic Recovery Plan and what we call the centerpiece of this Recovery and Resilience Facility is not only to, so to say, to get the economy going, but also to facilitate the green and digital transformation of our economy and strengthen the resilience of the economy against potential future crisis. So in a sense, to future-proof European economy. That's why it's very important that EU member states now prepare good quality national recovery and resilience plans, and we are working very closely with EU member states on this. And actually, we expect that many member states will be already submitting their recovery and resilience plans by the end of April.
So as member states, over to you. Vaccination efforts have been ramped up across the EU, but amid this, national leaders did agree that they would block exports of vaccines from EU countries in some circumstances to protect supplies here in the EU. This has been very divisive, particularly with the United Kingdom, which feels somewhat targeted. To what extent is this export block mechanism actually being used so far, and how much do you expect it will be used?
Let me immediately clarify. The EU continues to be one of the largest, if not the largest, vaccine exporter in the world. Indeed, we have our export transparency and authorization mechanism in place, but already under this mechanism, EU has exported more than 113 million vaccines worldwide, and many countries, developing countries covered by COVAX facility, are completely exempted from this mechanism. When you mentioned specifically UK, then EU has exported around 25 million vaccines from the EU to the UK, and close to zero has come back in the opposite direction. So if we talk about openness in terms of vaccine exportations, but at the same time, of course, it's important that we are rolling out vaccination also across the EU, and we need to speed up this work. Well, just yesterday, actually, we passed the 100 million vaccinations mark within the EU. So what our export authorization mechanism foresees, that in case there are some problems with vaccine deliveries, that EU vaccination rollout is not disproportionately affected.
Well, you spoke about exporting to developing countries. The head of the World Trade Organization, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, has spoken out about inequalities on access to vaccines around the world. She raised the issue of vaccine exports with yourself and Commissioner Breton. I understand that you're due to say soon that getting vaccines to Africa is a priority for the European Union. Just to understand, what does that mean? More exports to Africa, or helping production to happen in Africa?
Actually, just a few days ago, we had a broad discussion organized by Director General of the WTO, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, to discuss exactly those issues. And we discussed both questions concerning the vaccines exports and keeping supply chains open and functioning, but also ramping up a global vaccine production, including in places where there is a clearly production under capacity, like in Africa. So it covers both aspects. And from the EU side, we are very much supporting this effort of the WTO Director General.
Okay, let's talk about things closer to home, post-Brexit UK-EU relations. Preliminary statistics on trade have shown that trade flows between the two sides are significantly down in January and in February of this year. Of course, there's the pandemic happening at the same time. So a lot of people wanting to try and figure out how much of this is down to the pandemic and how much is this the future of trade between the EU and the UK?
Of course, both factors are at play, because we know that in general, both EU and UK economies are in recession due to the pandemic. But of course, we also see here economic consequences of UK's decision to move out of the single market and customs union, because within the single market, flow of goods and services is unimpeded. If UK has now moved out of the single market and customs union, of course, it creates some additional, so to say, hurdles in terms of moves and goods and services, and that is reflected in the current trade flows. So in a sense, it shows the value added which single market has for a flow of goods and services.
Of course, these non-tariff barriers that exist now on a lot of the trade between the EU and the UK, hampering businesses in the EU as well as Britain. Is there work ongoing on removing some of these non-tariff barriers?
First of all, we have our trade and cooperation agreement in place between EU and UK, which ensures so to say, zero tariff, zero quota access to each other's market, and that's certainly helping in current situation. But the fact that there are, for example, now customs controls or phytosanitary controls is a direct consequence of leaving single market and customs union. So there we can discuss how we can streamline the procedures, but the very fact of leaving single market and customs union means that those controls are now in place.
Well, just to talk about trade with the United States, under Donald Trump, of course, a kind of trade war broke out between the EU and US. Just recently, you told a German magazine that the EU is asking Washington if it would consider mutual suspension of billions of dollars worth of euros of tariffs for 6 months. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, first of all, indeed, we hope that we'll be able to turn this page with a new Biden administration, and first signals and first steps are very positive. We already have agreed on mutual suspension of tariffs in a context of Airbus-Boeing dispute for 4 months, and in between we need to discuss future disciplines in area of large civil aircraft manufacturing. We have indeed extended similar proposal on suspending the steel and aluminium tariffs which Trump administration has imposed, and correspondingly suspending also EU tariffs which were put in place as a response. So we are working with the new administration also on this. So we indeed hope that we are able to resolve our bilateral trade disputes, and that we can cooperate much closer on multilateral trade issues, including reform of the World Trade Organization.
And just on the tariffs issue, have you had a response yet from the US government?
Well, as I said, the decision on suspending Airbus Boeing tariffs is already in place. And we are currently in discussions on possible steps concerning steel and aluminium tariffs.
Well, that is all we've got time for, but thank you very much, Valdis Dombrovskis, for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks to you for watching as well. I hope to see you in part 2 of the programme in a couple of minutes' time.